All right, this is Daf Yomi in Motion, number 781. Today we're going to learn Daf Samech Aleph in Metzia, and we're going to be speaking about Neshek Viribis. The Gemara starts on Daf Samech Amid base at the bottom, 3 lines up from the bottom. Tanrabanan. There's a pasuk that says Eskas becha lo sitain lo beneshech ubiribis. The pasuk says Eskas becha lo sitain lo beneshech ubimarbis lo sitain achlecha. So from this pasuk we learn ainli ela neshech bekesef, because it says kasbecha lo sitain lo beneshech. The ribis, and when it talks about the marbis, it says it's in reference to food. Marbis lo sitain achlecha. So the Gemara says, "V'ribis be'oichel." We only see that ribis is working with oichel. Neshech be'oichel minayin. However, so therefore neshech, like, where do we know that neshech applies also to food? Like we said, neshech is one person gets back more than he gave. We said marbis is profiting. So we only see the inyan of getting back more than you gave with kesef. But we don't see that even though we already discussed that they're really both the same. However, where do we find neshech? Also, the concept of neshech, since the Torah does talk about them in 2 different terms, even though they're the same idea, where do we see neshech also applying to oichel? Menayim. Neshech ba'oichel menayim. Where do we see it? Talmud Omer, we have the pasuk that says in B'dvarim, lo sashich lo achicha neshek. You shouldn't, like, sashich is to take more from your friend that you gave him. Kesef neshech. Oichel neshech kol davar asher yishach. So here we see it. Where do we see neshech by oichel? Because we have another pasuk that says neshech oichel. Neshech kol davar asher yishach. So Talmud Omer neshech oichel. So we see that neshech applies also to oichel. However, ribis bekesef, since the original pasuk only that we read before only was applying the word ribis to oichel, where do we find that ribis also of the profiting also applies to kesef? Ribis bekesef minayin. Where do we know ribis with kesef? Talmud Loimer, we have a pasuk that we just read, neshech kesef, like we read, and we're going to see that it's written in 2 psukim, neshech kesef, so we didn't need it. It's redundant. And that's what the Gemara says on Samach Aleph Amid Aleph. Im eno inin leneshech kesef. We don't need it for neshech kesef because we had it already. Because we've already learned, we have 2 psukim that talk about neshech kesef. Shahari kfar ne'ama, because it was already said. Like we where was it already said? Lo sashich lo achicha neshech kesef. So here we have 2 psukim that are talking about neshech kesef. So the Gemara teaches us Tinehu inin l'ribis kesef. Therefore, since we already have two psukim that talk about Neshek kesef, we don't need both of them to tell us about Neshek kesef. So therefore, one of them is going to be for Neshech Ribis Kesef. Tineu inin the Ribis Kesef. So now, Eli Ela B'Loiva, all up until now, we've only learned that Neshech Kesef and Ribis Kesef and Neshech Oichel Ribis Oichel is only applying to a loiva. When a loiva will take a loan and has to pay it back, he shouldn't pay back more than he took. We're only seeing it in reference to the loiva. The malva menai. Where do we know that if the malva will take more than he had lent or profit? Where do we know that that's usher for him? And the answer is Ne'amar Neshech B'Loiva. We learned Neshech B'Loiva, V'Ne'amar Neshech B'Malva. We see Neshech by both the Loiva and the Malva that they should not take back. The Loiva should not give more than he borrowed, and the Malva should not take more than he lent out. So Ma Neshech, just as Neshech, we've already learned, applies both to the Malva and to the Ha'omer B'Loiva, which was referring to, in reference to the Loiva, to the borrower, Lo chelakta bo bein v'kesef bein ba'oichel. Over there, in the case with the Loiva, we referred to Neshech in regards to the kesef and in regards to the oichel. Bein b'neshech bein b'marbis, and also in regards to Loiva, we spoke about how both terms Neshech and Marbis also apply to Kesef and Eichel, and all that was in regards to the Loiva. So Ap Neshech Ha'amor B'Malva. So to the Neshech, which was spoken in regards to the Malva, we also won't make any distinctions. Lo Tichlaik Bo Bein B'Kesef Bein Ba'Eichel. There won't be any differences. Also, Neshech and Ribis will apply with it, whether by Kesef or by Eichel. For the Loiva, also, he shouldn't take more than he gave out, and he shouldn't be profiting not on Kesef and not on Ochel. Bein b'neshech, bein b'ribis. Where do we know that ribis and neshech ribis will apply to however the person will profit or be taking back more than he gave, not just to Kesef and Ochel? 9. Minayin l'rabos kol dover. Where do we know to be rabos kol dover that neshech and ribis will apply to whatever they is being, whatever the person is making money on or overcharge or getting extra money back for having lent it to them? Talmud Loma, we have another pasuk that says, Lo sashich lo achicha the pasuk says, Lo sashich lo achicha neshech kesef neshech ochel neshech kol davar asher yishach. So we have a pasuk that teaches us really anything that where a person will use it in order to get extra money back more than they had lent out, there'll be the inyan of ribis. Ravina Omar Lo Noshach ba'oichel v'lo ribis b'kesef tzrichei kro. We just learned that the way that we know that Neshek applies by money or by ochel, and ribis applies by money by oichel, is from the Gzeres HaKosev that we had, like we said above in this Amud. We said Nemar lo sashich la'achicha. Yes, how do we know that it? We just learned everything from the Gzeres Shava, from the two psukim about Neshek and Ribis, and how it was applying. This is what we saw applied by Aloy, it was applying by the Malva. Ravina said we don't need those psukim, Gzeres Shava, to teach us that Neshek will apply by Kesef or Ochel, or that Ribis will apply by Neshek or Kesef or Ochel. Ravina Omar lo Neshek ba'oichel. We don't need the psukim to teach us Neshek ba'oichel. V'lo ribis b'kesef. We don't need, which we were trying to derive. We don't need the psukim to teach us ribis b'kesef. Tzrichei kro. We don't need those psukim. We can learn it directly from one of the psukim, because the iksiv es kaspecho lo siten lo b'neshech v'yo. Yochlecho, because Ravina is saying that if the psukim had said the pasuk that we were learning from is es kaspecho lo siten lo b'neshech u'b'marbis lo siten ochlecho, and we learn from there saw there that kesef applied to Neshek and Marbis applied to Oichel, and we learned there that since that Neshek was already referred to as applying to kesef, if we didn't need it, and we're mentioning that Neshek applies to kesef twice, we said that Neshek would also be with Oichel. So the Ravina says we would have maybe needed to learn that way if this pasuk had been written differently. So that's what Ravina is saying in the Gemara. Ravina Omar lo neshech ba'oichel v'lo ribis b'kesef tzrichei kro. We don't need a pasuk to teach us that. The iksiv es kaspecho, because if it had said es kaspecho lo siten lo b'neshech, and then said directly v'ochlecho lo siten b'marbis kidika'amar, and then if we had said it that way, that's not the way the pasuk said it. But if we had said it that way, then it would have worked. We would have needed a pasuk, because then we would have been separating. We would have been saying that it would be seen from the pasuk that the kesef is only neshech is only applying to kesef, and then the ochel is only with the marbis. However, that's not the way the pasuk was written. The pasuk was written, the way it is written, Eskas b'cha lo siten lo b'neshech b'marbis lo siten ochlecho. So we see in the middle of the pasuk that the neshech ub'marbis is next to each other. So we can read it like this. Kori Bey, we can read it. Hachi, eskas b'cha lo siten lo. Your money you shouldn't give to him. B'neshech, and that you'll be getting back more than you received. Ub'marbis, b'neshech ub'marbis. So we see that kesef applies with ribis and with neshech. And then we would read it again. Neshech ubimarbis lo siten ochlecho. And then we would see from that part, we see from that pasuk itself that it both neshech and marbis both apply to ribis and to kesef and to oichel. That's what Ravina says. Back to Gemara, Ravina is really coming against a brisa. Ravina is in a more. How can Ravina come and give a different hesber that the brisa didn't give? The brisa was written by Tanoim. There was earlier commentators. So that's what the Gemara asks. Vahat Tana Ne'amar. Vahat Tana Ne'amar Kama. The Tana was using a Gzer Shava. Like we saw above, we were asking on the bottom of Samach Hamid base, we asked, where do we know that Neshek applies by Ochel also? And we answered, Tamaloma Neshek Ochel. We had a pasuk that said Neshech Ochel. Right, so we had a pasuk for Neshech Ochel. Then we asked about Ribis Bekesef. Where do we know Ribis Bekesef? Is also that Ribis also applies with Kesef and not just by Ochel. And we learned that from Gzer Shava from this price. We said Talmud Loma Neshech Kesef. And Neshech Kesef was extra because we had it in another pasuk already. And that was the Inu Inin. Since we don't need it because it's written twice, and we learned that Neshech was going on Oichel. That was the Brisa, those were Tanoim. Ravina is saying that from that one pasuk, which is by Yikra Chafei, pasuk Lamed Zayin, we could learn all of this from that one pasuk. We don't need the Gzer Shava. The Gemara is asking, how can Ravina say this? If Tanoim told us that that's how we're supposed to learn, how can Ravina go against what Tanoim are saying? The Gemara answers, this is what he's meant to say. Hochi kama, ilu lo ne'amar kro. If the pasuk hadn't said it, like it did, like Ravina explained to us, he's explaining what the Tanoim are saying. That if the pasuk hadn't said it, like the Ravina explained to us, the way it was supposed to be learned, then we would have been able to learn the Gzer Shava like we were seeing in the Brisa. Haiti Omer Gzer Shava. I would have said the Gzer Shava that we saw the Tanoim were saying. Achshav Shnema Pro. But now that we have the pasuk, like Ravina was explaining it, that we can learn that Neshech will apply to both Kesef and to Ochel, and Ribis will apply to both Kesef and to Ochel. Shav Shnemar Kro Gzer Shava Lo Tzarich. So now we don't need the Gzer Shava. So now that we don't need the Gzer Shava, what is it there for? Gzer Shava Lamali, what is it doing? What is Gzer Shava there for? If we see where we saw Gzer Shava we saw being used when we wanted to show that everything applied, the neshech with kesef, but the neshech with ochel also applied to the loiva, not just to the malva, not just the loiva. And on that we had a pasuk that spoke about the connected the malva and the loiva, like third line down in the Gemara. Says, what do we know? We want to know, where do we know that ribis kesef will also apply to the malva? We said, we said nemar neshech beloiva. Neshech we know applies to the loiva. Nemar neshech b'malva, and neshech does apply to the malva also, that he's not supposed to take interest for having given a loan. Ma neshech ha'omu b'loiva, and we said the neshech that was said by the loiva, we learned that it applied both to kesef and to ochel. Lo chalakta bo bein bekesef, bein beoichel, bein beneshech, bein beribis. With the loiva also, there was no distinctions. Neshech applied by kesef and ochel. Ribis applied by kesef and oichel. And that was by the loiva. And we learn neshech by loiva and neshech by malva. So the gzer shava is neshech, neshech. Everything that we applied to the loiva will apply to the malva. And this pasuk in Vayikra that we were reading, where Ravina was learning from, was talking about the malva, and we saw there that it was applying to the malva, oichel and kesef and neshech b'marbis. So what he was saying, what the Tanoim was saying, that if we didn't have that limud, we would have been able to learn from that gzer shava we said above. So now that we don't need a gzer shava, what is that gzer shava coming to teach us? Neshech from loiva to malva. El gzer shava lamali, what do we need it for? The neshech kol davar. We need it to include kol davar, that there'll be ribis and neshech on any, and even if it's not kesef or ochel, and it will apply to the malva. Lamali, the neshech kol davar asher yoshach to lo kosav b'malva, because neshech kol davar isn't written by the malva. Omar Rava, Lamali, the kosav rachmana love the ribis. The Gemara is asking a new question: why do we have to have a separate love by ribis, by gezel, and by oino? They're all inyonim, taking money away from somebody. Whether it's stealing, you're taking money away from somebody. Oino is taking money away from him because you're overcharging him. And by ribis is you're taking money away from him. He has to pay extra money for having this, being able to use for taking a loan. So they're all the same inyan. So why do we have to learn them separately? Rashi, where we are in the Gemara up, about 10, 11, 12 lines. Lamali lab beribis, love begezel. Ilamdu zemze, we should be able to learn each one from the other. Shibikulan chesaron mammon, each one is a chesaron mammon, is causing a chesaron mammon to the person. Shemechaser es chavera, they're causing money loss to a person. And then we should be able to learn if one is asa, we should know that they're all asa. And that's the Gemara Shaila. Again, Amar Rava Lamali Dikosav Rachmana Love Beribis, Love Begezel, Love Be'ainah. And for the Gemara Tzrichi, we needed to learn them. The Ikos of Rachmana, because if we had only written Love Beribis, if we'd only learned the Love Beribis and we wanted to learn the love of Ainah and the love of Gezel, that it's a lab, it's an Isser, we wouldn't have known it. We would have thought that Ribis, by Ribis there'll be an Isser, but by Gezel and Ainah there won't be. Why? Because Ribis is a Chidush, that we are offering a person to take Ribis, to charge Ribis, we're causing him a Chesaron, but we're also offering the Laiva from paying the Ribis. What's the Chiddush? Kumar says, De'afilu b'loiva asra rachmana. That's, he's not taking any money away. He's only giving his own money to the malva. That's a Chiddush. That's an Isser for him to give his own money. He's not causing a loss to somebody else. You might think since it's a Chiddush there, it's Asr, there's an Isser, but you might not be able to learn the Isser of taking money away from somebody by Gezel or by overcharging him in a case of a sale. The Ikos of Rachmana, if we had only learned love begezel, the love of Gezel, and we wanted to learn the love of Ainah and the love of Ribis from that, Mishum dibal korche, I would think maybe there's an Isser in Gezel because he's taking it away from the person who is stealing from against his will. And the person who is giving him the money, who he's taking the money from, doesn't want to give that money over. Whereas with Ainah, the person is willingly giving him that money. He doesn't know that he's overpaying, but he's giving it of his own free will. And also with Ribis, the person who took the loan is paying the Ribis from his own free will. So you might think that maybe there's an Isser to be mechaser money from someone when it's against their will. When it's bal korcha, against their will. But if it's not against their will, you might think there's no Isser, like in the case of Ribis and Ainah, overcharging. That's what the Gemara says. About Ainah, Aimalo, maybe with Ainah, I'll say there's no Isser because he's giving the money, the extra money, he's overpaying for something, and he's giving it on his own free will, even though he doesn't know he's overpaying for it. The Ikos of Rachmana, love, but if we only wrote the lab that it's usher to overcharge somebody, so I might think Mishum Delo Yoda Demochil Choda Mechoda. Delo Yoda Demochil. That if we had only learned the Isser, it's usher to overcharge someone, you might think that the Isser of Ainah, of being mechaser money from somebody, is when the person doesn't know that he's having money taken away from him. He doesn't know he's overcharging, and therefore you might think that's also because he doesn't know, and you can't say he's being moichel. Whereas when it's being stolen from him and he knows it is being stolen, gezel, it's being stolen from him, there is a tzad to say that he was moichel. It's shayach for him to be moichel. But with Ribis, he knows he's paying an extra interest for taking this loan. It's shaykh there to say that he's meichlet since he's paying it. But by something he doesn't know that he's paying, like overcharging on an object that he's buying, then it's not shaykh there to say he's meichel. So maybe there's an isser, but maybe by ribis and by gezel, we don't have a definite isser because maybe there is mechila there. So Morris sees that we can't learn no one of these three cases can we learn the other one from. So chad mechad lo asya, we can't learn them all out from one, but maybe we can learn at least one out from two. And so why should the Torah have to write all three isurim? Maybe just write two of them, and we will know at least the third one. So isi choda mitarti. So just learn one out from two. And the Torah would only have had to written two of these isurim, and the other one we could have derived from the two. So see, which one should we bring? Which one meaning should we the Torah not write, and should we derive from two others? So lo lichtov rachmana lo beribis. More is first suggesting that the Torah should have left out the lav of ribis. And we should then derive ribis from gezel and from oino. V'teisi mahanach. And we will then learn ribis from both gezel and oino. That it's also to take ribis, to be machaser mamon of a person by charging interest on a loan. So ma'alahanach, the Gemara says we can't do that. We can't learn ribis from gezel and from oino because gezel and oino have characteristics that we might think don't apply. So let's leave the goods, how the Gemara says it. Ma'alahanach, these being a gezel and oino, shechein shlomidas. So you might think these are lomidas. Gezel is against his will. It's being taken forcefully. He's not offering it. He doesn't want to give it. And oino, he doesn't know that he's paying it. That's shlomidas. So you might think there's an isser, but you might think when he's willingly paying the ribis because he needs the loan, that you might think there's no isser there. Toma ribis dimidaite lo. So another. That's where we have a problem trying to learn ribis from oino and gezel, because oino and gezel have a characteristic that ribis doesn't have. That the money is being taken away from the person, either that he doesn't know that it's being taken away from him, or against his will. Whereas ribis, he's paying it. He wants to pay it. He needs the loan. So rather, the Gemara says, let's try another one. Let's try to leave out a different case and derive it from the other two. Lo liftov rachmana love be'oino. So leave out the oino and let's derive oino from gezel and from ribis. V'teisi mahanach, and we'll learn oino from gezel and ribis. More says we can't do that. Malahanach, both gezel and ribis. Shechein ein derech mekach v'memcha b'kach. It's not. You might think there's an isser by gezel v'ribis because it's not taken from a person during the process of a transaction. Gezel is not a transaction. The person is stealing it. One person is stealing from another. And oino and ribis is not part of a purchase of mekach b'memkar, where a person buys an object for money. It's a loan that he has to pay interest on because he had the money. Hamtanas mois, had the money for a time, and he's paying for that delay until he gives the money back. However, oino is a transaction where a person is buying an object for money. And there's a tzad to say that since he's buying it, he's willing to pay more for this object because he's getting an object. And there it's possible to say that he's being moichel the extra that he's overpaying. So malahanach shechein ein derech mekach b'memcha, he's not getting anything when he has his money taken away from him. Whereas with oina, he's getting an object even though he's overpaying for it, but it's still possible to say he was moichel the overpayment because he wanted it. So therefore, we're left only with the possibility of leaving out Gezel and learning Gezel from Ribis and Oinot. And lo lichtov rachmano love begezel. Leave out the love of Gezel, and we'll derive it from the love of Oinot and the love of Ribis. The Tesi Mahanach, and we'll learn Gezel from the other two. To my parachta, what did we ask before? When we wanted to learn Ribis out from Gezel and from Oinah, we said we can't because Ribis, you might think, that you can't learn. If we wanted to learn the other two just from Ribis, we might think we couldn't because Ribis has a chiddush that even the loiva, who is not causing a loss to the malva, he's giving the interest to the malva, that even there it's usher for the loiva to pay it to the malva. So we can't. Maybe since there's a chiddush, that's why there's an isser on it. That's what we said. So how now can we say that we can derive gezel from ribis and oinah? So to my parakta, what did we ask before? Why we couldn't learn gezel from ribis? Mala ribis shechein chiddush, because we said that his problem was it was a chiddush. But if we put the ribis with the oinah together, so then oinah will be yochiach that we're not dealing, that the isser of ribis, of being machaser moment to someone, Gabi, the ribis, is not because it's a chiddush, because we're learning gezel from oinah and ribis, and by oinah there's no chiddush. Shechein chiddush. So oinah tochiach, oinah will prove that we aren't focusing on that aspect of the ribis, that it is chiddush, and that's why there's isser to be machaser moment, because oinah there's no chiddush. So mala oinah, but then we have a problem. We have a problem trying to derive gezel from oinah beribis, because when we look at the oinah, so ma la oinah shechein lo yoda, oinah, maybe we'll say that there was an isser. Oinah is because the person doesn't know that it's being taken away from him. By gezel, he knows it's being taken away from him. Umochil. So by oinah, he doesn't know. So in order to be moichel, maybe that's why there's an isser. By oinah, then we won't be able to apply that to gezel, because since that he doesn't know to be Michael, we can say it's also. But if by gezel that he knows is being taken away from him, at least there's a tzad that he is Michael. Maybe there we can't say that there's an isser. So ribis tochiach, on that ribis will be mochiach, because ribis, he does know that he's paying the ribis, and we're still saying there's an isser, and we're not saying that the reason why there's an isser is because he doesn't know. We're not saying that the reason why it's usser is because we can't say that he's being Michael. Even by ribis, where he's paying it himself willingly, he could be Michael, and it's still usser. So that's not the reason for the isser. So therefore, by using oinah and ribis, we could derive gezel. Each one has a characteristic that the other one doesn't have, and that's therefore we can derive the isser to be mechaser money from somebody from those two, and therefore we don't need, the Torah doesn't have to write gezel. We could derive it from ribis and oino. Hatzad hashava shebehen. What's the tzad hashava between ribis and oino? Shechein goizloi. That is that they are stealing from a person. So afani evi gezel, we can derive gezel from that. So Omar Omrei hachinami, true, we could. So how come the Torah mentions gezel? Elalab. So therefore, why does the Torah refer to a love of gezel? Elalab begezel amali. Why does the Torah have to mention the love of gezel? And for the Gemara, the love of gezel is referring lichvosh schar sochi, is referring to when a person doesn't want to pay for workers that did work for him. The pasuk which tells us that it's also to withhold wages to a worker, that's already mentioned specifically. We don't need the other pasuk which talks about the Isra of Gezel. You don't need that to talking about withholding schar v'sachir. We have a specific pasuk for that. What's the pasuk? Because it says, Lo sa shoik, sochir, oni, ve'evyon, ma'achecho, o migercho, asher ba'artzecho, bisharecha. We already have a pasuk not to withhold the wages of a worker. And for the Gemara, the reason why we have, therefore, this pasuk is that we should apply two lavin to a person who withholds wages to workers. Lavor alai b'shnei lavin, to apply two lavin to a person that would do this. Why do we apply? What ends up is that we have an extra pasuk which tells us that it's also to withhold wages from a person who just did work for somebody, but we already knew it from ribis and oino. Why? The Gemara says, "V'lukma v'ribis v'oino." Why do we take that pasuk and say that it's really applying to ribis and ve'oino to apply two lavin to ribis ve'oino? When it answers, "V'lavor alai v'lukma v'ribis ve'oino v'lavor alai b'shnei lavin," and to make that those will be two lavin on ribis ve'oino. And for the Gemara, no, because the inyan of the pasuk was talking about withholding wage from a worker. So therefore, we're going to add another lav to one who does that lav. And that's what we're talking about. So there's two lavin for someone who withholds wages. Davar halomed me'inyano. Davar halomed me'inyano. U'be'inyana tisachik siv. And we're going to say that it applies to whatever the pasuk is talking about, and that pasuk is talking about a sachir. The pasuk says, there's a pasuk in Vayikra. It says, "Lo signoivu, lo sichachashu, lo sishakru ish ba'amiso." The person shouldn't steal. Signoivu, lo sishachashu, shouldn't deny. Lo sishakru, and shouldn't lie. Ish ba'amiso. So we want to know what, if we already learned that you're not supposed to steal from oino v'ribis. The other pasuk of Gezel, the Isra of Gezel, is referring to schar sochir, not to withhold wages. So what is this pasuk talking about in Vayikra? Not to steal. Lo signoivu, it's plural. Lo signovu, don't steal. Like two stealings, what? Tichsiv Rachmana, what do we need that for? And for the more, the reason we need that, Ketanya, like we learn in the Brisa, we have another pasuk which teaches us. It says, lo signovu. We learn, it's a brisa that says lo signovu, meaning don't steal. Almanas lemei kat. Don't steal in order to bother a person. In order to, that will be the way you punish a person. Stealing, even though you're going to give it back later. Then we learn lo signovu, almanas l'shalom tashlumi kefil. Don't steal in order to give the person the kefil after they find that this person stole it. He'll have to pay kefil. And Rashi explains because the person doesn't want to take the money. So he's trying to steal from him and then get caught in order to have to pay twice. So that the person will accept money from him. And even that, well, a person is not in that way, also a person is not supposed to steal. Amalei Rav Yomar, the Rav Ashi, Lav dikosa brachmana b'mishkalois. Lamali, what do we need the pasuk again? If we already know gezel, why do we need the lav that you have to have proper weights and measure for buying for merchants that are buying selling goods and people that are buying with measured goods? Why we need? Of course, we know it's usher. It's being mechasim mamon from someone, and we learn that gezel is usher. The kosav rachmana, so the lav, the kosav rachmana b'mishkolos lamali. Amalei, we need that because the tamon b'mishkolos b'melach. We have to know that it's also, the Torah is teaching us that you should have honest weights and measures because of even though that we would have known that it's also b'mechaser mamon, we need that because for the case where a person, the lokeach, the buyer, would submerge his weights into salt, the salt would get absorbed inside the lead, and it would add a certain type of swelling to the lead, or else it would get stuck. It would stick into the crevices of the lead and make the lead heavier. And then when the buyer goes to buy fruit and he has his own weight, counterweight, he will come to use his counterweight. He'll throw his counterweight on the scale, and he'll get more fruit, more produce for the same money as whatever the weight that he put on the scale is, even though that it's really weighs more than what it says it is, because he sunk it into salt. Those that the person should know, he's not supposed to sink his weights into salt for this in this way. Furthermore, what do we need that for? That's gezel. That's being mechaser mamon from somebody. That's hainu gezel malia. That's regular gezel. And for the Gemara, no, we want to be told that a person will be over on gezel even when he just starts sinking the weight into the salt, even if he hasn't yet stolen the more produce from the seller. Hul avor lav mishas asiyah. That's to tell us that he's already going to be over on this gezel, even when he just sinks the weights into the salt. Tanu Rabbanan, we have a brisa. Pasuk says, which quotes a pasuk. It says in Vayikra, "Lo sasu ovel b'mishpat." You shouldn't deviate in judgments which are done in Beis Din. B'amido b'mishkal b'misura, either with weights and measures, or misura. Misura means with liquids that are being sold, and they're sold in a cup, certain measuring cups for liquids. Tanabar lo sasu ovel b'mishpat b'midu b'mishkal b'misura. Mida, what do we mean? Mida, measure. Zu, medidas karka. We're talking about when they measure karka for the purpose of selling off lots. and they have measuring cords. So shelo yimdod, the Gemara says, lo yimdod le'echad b'yemois hachama u'le'echad b'yemois hachshamim. Don't take the same cord and measure a piece of land with that cord for one person in the summer and for another person in the winter. Because in the winter, when it's damp, you can stretch it, and the cord will give that person, it'll stretch, and he'll end up with the same cord with more land. Whereas in summer, everything is dry and constricted, and the cord won't stretch as much, and he'll end up with less land. So that's a trick a person shouldn't do. Shouldn't be using the same cord for two different time periods. Mishkal, what do we mean, Mishkal? Shlo yitamin mishkalosa b'melach, like we mentioned. Mishkal means you shouldn't submerge your weights in salt. Masura, what do we mean by the liquid measuring cups? Shlo yartiach, that he shouldn't, when he pours, like if he's selling beer, he shouldn't pour with a big head with a lot of foam, because he shouldn't be selling the person foam. He should then afterwards, when the foam settles, he'll see that he has less than what he thought he was buying. Someone says, "V'alo dvorim kal v'chomer." Someone says, "Isn't it a kal v'chomer?" Uma musura shehi echad mishloshim v'sheish belug. It's 1/36 of a lug. It could be the olive Torah. The Torah was machbid. You have to be careful with it, not to fill up the Messiah with a lot of foam. To give that measure, which is a relatively small measure, should be done right. So kabachomer lehin lechetzi hin v'shlishus ahin v'rvius ahin v'lug v'chetzi lug v'rvius lug, which were bigger mouths. Omer Rava Lama li because of Rachmana Yitzias Mitzrayim beribus Yitzias Mitzrayim Gabi Tzitzis Yitzias Mitzrayim b'mishkalos. Why is Yitzias Mitzrayim, the event of going out of Mitzrayim, mentioned by ribis, by tzitzis, and by having good weights and measures? Omar Kadosh Baruch Hu Anihu Shivchanti b'Mitzrayim bein tipa shel b'chor letipa she'eno shel b'chor. Hashem, he killed the firstborn of b'chor in Mitzrayim. He was mavchin between each child, whether they came from a tipa, from the man, which was his firstborn, or whether it wasn't his firstborn, and then Hashem would kill that firstborn. Rashi says, where we are in the Gemara, up about 4 lines, Shivchanti b'Mitzrayim, Hashem was discerned in Mitzrayim. Hari shebo asar ravakim al mitzris achas, if 10 unmarried men came on one mitzris, and his abra mehen, and she became pregnant from all of them. The eser iburim, with 10 different children. Eser b'choros, shehen b'choros, and there's going to be 10 different firstborns from this one woman. as b'chor shehen b'chor shel avi, and they are the b'chor of their father. Kulan mesu, then they would all die, and Hashem will determine which tipa was the firstborn, was the tipa of that man, was the first child of that man, of that father. So Hashem was saying that this is I Mitzrayim discern between the tipa that was a bechor and the tipa that wasn't a bechor. Ani hu she'osi libora, I will be the one to pay. Mimi shetoila moisav b'nochri, for whoever says, "Oh, this money is from a goy," because goyish money is allowed to take ribis from. And if he's toiling his money and says that it's goyish money, and he's therefore lending it out for the goy, and he has to take ribis from it, he says such a thing. The only one that's going to know that is Hashem. So he's toiling the money in being of a goy, and then he lends it out for ribis. The malva oisam Yisrael b'ribis. And Hashem will pay that person because Hashem is the only one that can know what was going on over there. With me also, similarly, Hashem will be the one to pay for other things that are only known to Hashem and they're hidden from everybody else. With me, shetoiman mishkaloisa b'melach. He's the only one that knows if this person caused extra weight to be added to his weights by putting it into the salt. So too, they took the kola ilan, which was a blue dye, and they added that to the tzitzis, where they're supposed to get it from the blood of the chilazon, and that would, in order to color the tzitzis, the techeles on the tzitzis. And and it's very expensive. And this person, because it's found only once every 70 years, this person wanted to color the techeles with this kola ilan, and it looks very similar, and only Hashem knows what he colored it with. Big deal. But and he tries to tell people that it was techeles. Ravina ikle l'sura de Poras. He went to Surah de Poras. It was a place in Surah on the Euphrates. And there was another place called Surah, which wasn't on the Euphrates. He went and he visited the Surah de Foras. Amalei Rab Chanina in the Surah de Foras. He told Rab Chanina that was from Surah de Foras. Rab Chanina Miss Surah de Foras said to the Ravina, Yitzias Mitzrayim, he asked him, Yitzias Mitzrayim, because of Rachmana Gabi Shrotzim. Lamali, why do we need by Shrotzim, where it says in the Torah, don't eat Shrotzim, because Hashem said, I need Hashem Elokecha that took you out of Mitzrayim. Why do we need to reference that Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim in regard to the Isser of eating Shrotzim? Omalei, Omar Kodesh Baruch Hu, Anihu shivchanti bein tipa shel bechor the tipa she'enu shel bechor. Again, Hashem said, I was mavchin, discerned between the tipa in Mitzrayim that was a bechor and those that weren't a bechor, and everyone that was a bechor, Hashem killed. Ani yasi lipora mimishim arev kirvei dogim tameim bekirvei dogim tahirim v'maychim Yisrael. So Hashem is going to be the one that discerns whether or not a person, when they're selling in the fish market, fish store, they have also inner parts from the fish. And there's inner parts from kosher fish and inner parts from treif fish. And nobody can really discern, because it doesn't have the whole fish there, whether he's selling inner parts from a treif fish. They're going to assume he's selling inner parts from a kosher fish, because all the other fish in the whole store are kosher, and they can see it. It has fins and scales. So the inner parts, if he's tricking people, the one that will pay him for that is Hashem. Because Hashem knows if it's really inner parts from tray fish. Tray fish is considered shkatzim v'ramasi. Omerle ona hamala kakashili. In other words, he's saying, when he answered, Rabbi Chanina asked Ravina, and he said, what was bothering me, why did he say mola? It was mola from Mitzrayim. In certain cases, it says by the Isser of Shkotzim, Shrotzim, Ani Hashem, that was mola, the people from Mitzrayim. Mola B'nai Israel from Mitzrayim. That's what was bothering. Why does it say he took them up from Mitzrayim? In other cases, it doesn't say he took them up. It just said it was like Rashi, where we are on the more up about 5 or 6 lines. Gabi Shrotzim V'viyeh b'yoyim hashmini, on the 8th day. Kani Hashem hamala eschem eretz Mitzrayim. That's what he was wondering. What is the mala eschem eretz Mitzrayim in regards to the Shrotzim? That was what was bothering me. Kakashali. Mashana Hacha, why does it say by the Shrotzim? It says Hamala. Yechosav Rachmana. Why does it say there? In other places it doesn't say it. Omalei, the Kiritanya, the Rabbi Yishmael, the answer is, like we learned, Tana the Rabbi Yishmael, Tana the Rabbi Yishmael, Omar, Kodesh Baruch Hu, Ilmole, Ha'alisi, Es Yisrael, Mitzrayim, Elibishvir Davazeh, She'ein, Mitamen Bishrotzim, Kishar Umos, that if I had only brought Klal Yisrael up from Mitzrayim, that they wouldn't be Mitame with Shrotzim like all the other Umos are, Mitame Bishrotzim, die. That would have been enough to bring them out of Mitzrayim, just not to become Tame from the Shrotzim. Omalei, Nifash Igrahu. He asked them, like Chanina asked Ravina, does this mean that they're going to get extra schar for holding back, not eating shrotzim, tefei? Because it says mala. Min afish agrayu tefei miribis v'mitzitzis mishkolos. Because by those it doesn't say mala. Does this mean because it says mala, that was mala the Klal Yisrael from Mitzrayim, that they're going to get, by keeping away from eating shrotzim, there's going to be more schar than by keeping away from charging ribis, or then by putting on tzitzis, or not to have false measure weights. Ravina told Rechanina Omalei, Avagav Delo Nafish Igrayu, even though there's not more schar for keeping away from shrotzim, tefei, Misei Umachilenu. It's discussing in Hashem's eyes people that eat shrotzim. That's why he said that it would have been worth just to take them out of Mitzrayim for that purpose alone. The Mishnah then said, Ezeu Tarbis. What is Tarbis? Tarbis is profiting. We said it's the same as Neshek, of getting back more than what you gave to a person, which is also profit. Ezeu Tarbis, Hamarbe Bepeirus. We said in the Mishnah, what is Tarbis? Hamarbe Bepeirus. Getting more, profiting and getting more payers back, getting more payers from the person. Ketzad, how does it work? If a person bought a certain amount of chitin, Bedina Zav, for a certain amount of money, We said in the Mishnah. And we said that those chitim that he bought then went up in value. He didn't take them all at once. And the chitim that he bought that were still by the moicher, and then the moicher was supposed to distribute to him throughout the year, it went up, shot up in value. And then the moicher said, you know what, I realized that it used to be worth 25 dinar kesef, and now that what is by me is worth 30. I realized that, and it's yours, but I'm going to borrow it, and you want it back in order to buy wine. I'll give you 30 dinar kesef worth of wine, and in the meantime, I'll use this 30 dinar kesef of chita as a loan. And later, I'll give you 30 dinar of wine. We said over there that if the wine will go up in value, he's still going to have to give him maybe down in value. He's still going to have to give him that, whatever that amount of money can buy of wine, even if it's going to be more than what he was going to have to buy at that moment when he took the loan. If that 30 dinar kesef could have bought one barrel of wine then, and now when he has to give it back, it can buy 2 barrels. So then it maybe that's like ribis. We said if he doesn't have a barrel in his possession at the time when he took the loan. What says Otu kol hani to amrin ad hashto love ribisi? Like we're mentioning ribis in this case, but the Rashi says where we are in the Gemara up about 5-6 lines. Ad hashta hamal vasela b'chamisha dinar. And the Mishnah said, what is the case of Neshek with money? When you lend a seller, which is 4 dinim, and you get back 5 dinim for it. So the Gemara says what? That wasn't the case of ribis? Like you're just trying to describe now a case of ribis? We were describing that was neshek. And then we start describing ribis. We start talking about the payros, and how if the wine will go up, he has to give back this certain amount of money worth of wine, it'll be ribis. But what? The case that was mentioned before that, lending a seller which is worth 4 dinim and getting back 5, that's not ribis. Also call hani de amrin and ad hashta love ribis you. Rabbi Abo. Ad kan lo shel Torah. Those cases that we mentioned in the beginning of the Mishnah was ribis deraisa. This case, when we're talking about the perus, ribis, with the perus, and the chita and the yayin, that's ribis derabanan. And kan be'elech shel divreihem, that's ribis derabanan. V'chein omar rava, ad kan shel Torah. Up until now, we're talking about, like that's what he said, it's ribis deraisa. Kan be'elech, from this point on, shel divreihem. It's talking about ribis derabanan. One says ad kan. You have a pasuk, ad kan, yochin. There's a pasuk in Iyov that says yochin b'tzadik yilbosh Bekesef Noki Yachalok. Meaning Yochin, the Russia will prepare. Adkan, just as a person who takes ribis, if that person will die and the son will inherit that money, the kesef from the ribis, the son, if he will be able to use it. The father might have been a Russia for taking ribis, and the son, who wasn't a Russia, didn't take ribis, can use that money. He doesn't have to give it back. That's what the pasuk's talking about. It says, Adkan, a person who takes ribis and there's a kesef ribis around when he inherits it to his son. Yochin, Russia, Yilbash Tzadik. So what? I mean, if he just takes money of ribis, what if he takes ribis to Rabbanim? What? It's not going to also be Adkan V'sulo, just ribis to Raisa? You don't have to give, but the Yoresh doesn't have to give back. What about ribis to Rabbanim? It's a kol shechin. If it's only ribis to Rabbanim, he shouldn't have to give it back. If to Raisa, he didn't have to give it back. So the ribis to Rabbanim, he also shouldn't have to give it back. Adkan V'sulo. What this din doesn't apply to ribis to Rabbanim if the son who inherited from his father doesn't ribis kesef ribis or perus ribis that are ribis to Rabbanim, he has to give that back. The Gemara says, Afilu adkan yochin rosh of yilvash tzadik. So for sure, ela afilu adkan yochin rosh. If the father had already charged ribis, yilvash tzadik, meaning for sure, if it was ribis d'Rabbanan, the son wouldn't have to give it back. Even if it was d'Oraisa, the father had taken kesef ribis, the son wouldn't have to give it back. Now the Gemara says, meaning, adkan ribis kitzutza. So back to our Mishnah, meaning adkan ribis kitzutza, the normal case of ribis, which is ribis of a halva, when the malvin and the loiva stipulate in the beginning of the halva that it will be ribis, there'll be payment of ribis. Adkan ribis kitzutza, mekan ve'elech avak ribis. And all of the other cases mentioned in the Mishnah began talking about avak ribis was ribis d'Rabbanan. Amar Rabbi Elazar, ribis kitzutza, which is the Raisa fixing that there will be a payment of ribis for a halva for a loan. Yoitza b'dayonin, you can get that money back. If that money was taken, it can be taken back by dayonim. Of avak ribis enu yoitza b'dayonim, but if it's ribis that was taken to Rabbanan ribis, it can't be taken back. It's only also, but it can't be gotten back in Beis Din. Rabbi Yochanan Omar afilu ribis ketutza, even ribis ketutza, if it was taken, it can't be gotten back. Nami eno yoytze b'dayanim. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, my time on the Rabbi Yochanan. What Rabbi Yitzchak says, why does Rabbi Yochanan say that ribis d'oraisa can't be taken back in Beis Din? So Omar Kro, because the pasuk says, b'neshek nosan. The pasuk says, b'neshek nosan v'tarbis lokach. B'neshek, he gave a loan, b'neshek with interest, v'tarbis lokach, and he took that extra back, or b'tarbis, the person took a loan, he took with the tarbis on the stipulation that he would have to give back more. It says, v'choy lo yichye, he won't live, eis kol hato'evois ho'ela, those that do these types of things won't live. Also, mois yumos, whoever does this will die, domar bo yeh, and he'll die. So what's the reason in Rabbi Yochanan that the person who also took ribis diraisa doesn't have to give it back? So that's what Omar Rabbi Yitzchak, my time with Rabbi Yochanan. Omar Kro, because the pasuk says, like we just read, Neshek, Nosan v'tabis lokach v'charlo yichye eskol tuevas ha'ela also. So what's going to happen to this person? He's going to die. Lemisa niten, a person who takes ribis diraisa, it says he's supposed to die. It doesn't say he's supposed to get v'lo la'ashivum. There's no ashava that person will get his kapora by returning them after he took the ribis. We don't see this like a kapora for returning the ribis that he took. Rather, he has to die. That's why Rabbi Yochanan says he's not going to get it back in Beis Din because there's no Indian of getting it back. Rav Adabar Abba Omar Cross said the reason for Rabbi Yochanan why the person who took ribis diraisa also will not get it back because of a pasuk that says Al tikach mi'ito neshech. Don't take from a person interest, tarbis, or usury, meaning getting profit for having lent the loan. Yoreisa melokecha v'chei ochicha imoch. So that's what from this pasuk, Al tikach mi'ito neshech v'tarbis v'yoreisa melokecha. What do we see? That a person who took ribis, there's no Indian of returning the ribis and getting hashava. The Indian is that a person who took ribis should now be afraid of the ownish that is going to happen to him. L'moira niten v'lo la'ashavon. It's a person who takes ribis. It's spoken that he should now fear the ownish that's going to come to him. Not that he can get a kapora by returning the ribis. Rav Omar Megufe Dikro Shmile. We hear from the pasuk itself that Rabbi Yochanan's din that ribis is not returned. It says, most humas, domav bo. Person who took ribis is going to die. And we make a hekish. Domav bo yeh. So what's the hekish? Hukshu malve ribis. They make a hekish to people that give loans with ribis. L'shoivchei damim, to those who kill people. And it says also, most humas by someone who is a murderer. Ma shoivchei damim, just as shoivchei damim, lo nitnu lashavan is not an Indian of. There's no, you can't return the neshama that the person killed. Af malve ribis lo nitnu lashavan. So too from the pasuk itself, we see that also malve ribis is no Indian of returning the ribis that was taken, and that was Rabbi Yochanan's din. And we'll stop here.